Roku now reaches 100 million households, but is far from owning the US market. New Hub data shows Roku and Amazon's growing role in SVOD aggregation and the messy world of over-the-air TV. Listen on.
And welcome to this week's edition of Inside the Stream. This is Will Richmond from Video News, and that was Colin Dixon there from End Screen Media in the intro. Colin, how are things for you?
It's going great, Will. And I was wondering if you were among the record audience for the Masters this weekend. Rory McIlroy repeating for the first time in a long time, I think. And apparently, I was reading that Nielsen was saying that it attracted the biggest audience for the Masters on CBS and Paramount Plus, driven by Paramount Plus. They said 14 million people were watching the final round, and that was about 9 million households, up 8%. Were you in that 14 million viewers, Will?
I was definitely in the 14 million, Colin. It's the best tournament of the year to watch, and Rory is, of course, the most popular player in the world, according to some. And it was a thrill to watch him repeat, and he came close to blowing it, which is his typical way of playing, but he rallied in the last part to pull it out. So it was an exciting tournament, and I'm not surprised that the ratings were up this year. He is golf's answer, let's say, to Tiger Woods no longer playing, at least for now anyway.
Yeah.
Rory is that answer.
And he's got lots of green in his closet now.
That is for sure. So let's see. That was fun. It was a fun tournament to watch. We're going to go ahead and get started this week, and we're going to start with Roku achieving a milestone of sorts.
Indeed, and apparently they're saying that they have reached 100 million households, which is quite an achievement, and that's pretty big growth from the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, so Roku announced that they're now up to 100 million users, globally, that is, of course. And that is 10 million more than the 90 million that they announced back in Q1 of 25. And meanwhile, just rewinding a little bit further, back in Q4, at the end of Q4 23, they said they had 80 million users. So they basically increased from 80 million to, 80 million to 100 million over the period since the end of 23. So growth is continuing for Roku, maybe slowing down just a little bit for them, but they continue to lead the market, and we'll talk about some Hub data in just a second. And so just to continue on where Roku stands in the market now with the 100 million. So just very coincidentally, Hub Research released some new data this week and question what operating system does your smart TV or streaming media player have, and this is among households that stream at least monthly via a smart TV or streaming media player. Roku on top again, as we would expect, with 55%, followed by Tizen from Samsung, 45%, Fire TV OS from Amazon, 35%, and on down it goes. So Roku still in number one position. Interestingly, you were able to pull the data from a year ago from Hub, and the shares were actually down just a little bit, right? They were,
yeah. Hub showed Roku OS with 59% of homes, and Tizen was also, I think, 48%. So I don't know what's going on there, but what this sort of indicates to me, well, there's a couple of things that this data shows that I think is really important. The first is that though Roku does have the most homes, they are not exclusive homes. The Hub data really reinforces the idea that most people have multiple TV OSs in their home. They are not buying by preference a TV with the same TV OS. They're buying based on what they've always bought on, which is screen size, price, and picture quality. So that's the first thing. Roku does not exclusively own homes. The second thing is that, with the hub data going down a little bit between the 2 years, I think a lot of Roku's growth now is coming outside of the US. It's been really focused on Mexico, where it's been doing extremely well. It's also had additional focus, I think, in the UK, parts of Europe where it entered the market a few years ago, and it's really putting a lot of focus there. So my bet, Will, is that actually most of this growth is not in the US, it's in the other countries. So I think that's what's going on there. And, the hub data is really useful because it really does emphasize the fact that no single TV OS dominates. Even though Roku has more homes, it doesn't dominate because most of those homes probably have another TV with a different TV OS.
I think that's right. And there's another element that the systems, the OSs that have big time share enjoy is the ability to offer additional streaming services to their users with, kind of within the same UI and also with one bill. And that showed up yet again in this year in the hub data. Just to recap a little bit, question, do you subscribe to any TV streaming service through? And Amazon Prime Video in the number one slot, no surprise at all. 50% said yes a year ago, 54% said yes this year. Amazon has that one bill and ubiquitous interface for just about everybody for people subscribing to the Prime service. So no surprise to see them in the lead. And then Roku comes in second, 24% saying that they subscribe to a TV streaming service through Roku, 24% last year, 26% this year, so up slightly. Apple actually in third place, 20% last year, up just a bit to 21% in 2026. And then YouTube back further, 14% last year, 16% this year. So these, all of these OSs have been public in talking about how they want to provide this aggregator type service, and it just makes a ton of sense, right? And then there's some other players here too. There
are. And in fact, Roku did state, Anthony Wood, who's the CEO of Roku, said that the company would be putting more focus on reselling SVOD services. And look, the TV OS is very powerful here, right? Because when you do a voice search, or, a search on a particular piece of content, they will very often tell you, oh, look, this is available in this service. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that with one click. And then the billing is handled through us and all of that. And so it's a very powerful medium for marketing the SVOD services, which is why particularly smaller SVOD services have had a lot of luck with people like Prime Video, Roku, and Apple TV. Interestingly, Hub included a couple of other areas here that I thought were interesting. They said that 36% said that they subscribe to a TV streaming service through their internet, cable, or satellite TV provider. The interesting thing here, Will, is this is more of a passive subscription. Remember, folks like Charter and Comcast and DirecTV have been putting a lot of emphasis of bundling in SVOD services with pay TV subscription services. So what's been happening here basically is a cable subscriber, they've just continued to pay for their cable. And guess what? Every now and again, they'll get an email or marketing promo saying, oh, you now have access to AMC Plus, or you now have access to Paramount Plus. And so this message has obviously been getting through to cable TV subscribers, and they can understand that they now have access to some of these subscription streaming services. Basically, as part of their subscription, they didn't really subscribe to it. They just sort of passively got it. The other interesting thing here is I haven't seen data which really indicate how successful mobile phone providers have been in marketing the SVOD services. And this is people like Verizon with their Plus Play. And this is really just a billing management relationship. They're not with particularly with Prime Video, Roku and Apple TV and YouTube. When you're watching those things that you have subscribed to, you end up watching through their client, not through the app that the SVOD provider provides. But with the mobile phone providers, this is purely a billing thing. You're still using their app. But actually the mobile phone providers, people like Verizon with Plus Play, have been reasonably successful. 28% of people say that they have subscribed to an SVOD service through their mobile phone provider. So, this is very useful because the mobile phone provider gets the stickiness of video to help them retain their customer. You're much more less likely to leave your mobile phone provider if you have to also move your subscription to, say, Paramount Plus or Peacock or whatever you've subscribed through them and have that billing relationship. So, this aggregation thing seems to be resonating with some consumers. They don't work for all because people like Netflix and Apple, well, not so much Apple, but Netflix and Disney typically don't participate in these aggregation plays. But many of the others do, and it's an easy way for people to subscribe.
Agree. And the just transitioning to one last piece of the hub data that caught your and my attention, which is, there's obviously so much in the news these days about AI, and Hub asked the question, how interested are you in using AI enhancements on the following devices? No surprise, smartphone came out at the top with 64% saying that they were either very interested or somewhat interested. But right there behind smartphone was the TV set with a combined 61% saying they're somewhat interested or very interested. So we've talked about this before, that there are some AI features that are now starting to find their way onto smart TVs. And it seems like there's real interest from consumers that they want to see these features there.
Yeah. And why wouldn't they? One of the biggest complaints that consumers have with TV experience today is finding stuff to watch. Not least of which is, where the heck is my game on that I want to watch? Figuring that out is a major problem because all of the rights are scattered across many services now. And it's just really, really hard to find where your show is or where a show that somebody has mentioned to you is these days. And AI can probably help people with that. So I'm not surprised at all that the TV set came out near the top of interest levels. I'm also not surprised, by the way, that smartphones were at the top, because that's the device we use, I think, pretty much all the time, right? So any help we can have there is welcome too.
And you and I got a chuckle out of the device that came in last on the list of how interested are you in AI enhancements. Lawnmower robot came in last with a combined 40% interest in having AI enhancements. Colin, I don't know, do you have a lawnmower robot or ever heard of one?
I don't, and I didn't even know the darn things existed. That's how in the dark I am on lawnmower robots. I guess people just don't want to get any exercise at all, right? If you buy a lawnmower robot.
I don't know. I'm with you. I have not heard of a lawnmower robot, but I'm glad Hub asked the question. So we have the data to compare it to for next year.
Yep.
So anyway, that's the Hub data and the Roku. We want to transition to our next topic now, which is related to Sony and ATSC 3.0.
Exactly. And this was a bit of a surprise, actually, because Sony made the announcement that they were dropping some features in their TVs, in their existing TVs that are in people's home, they're actually dropping some features of their OTA, over-the-air TV support. So if you've got an antenna connected to your television, your Sony Bravia television, and you have a TV that was manufactured between 2023 and 2025, you may find yourself with a less comprehensive guide. What they're going to be doing here is that they're going to be dropping a lot of the data that appears in that guide. So you will lose, for example, the icon for the station. You might lose built-in images that come up, so showing you actually what's playing. And you may actually lose the data that tells you what's playing on that channel. So the guides that they're going to be providing built into the television, these televisions manufactured between 2023 and 2025, could become far less comprehensive. And therefore, it becomes much, much more difficult to find what you're looking for. According to the industry, about 20 to 23 million homes rely on over-the-air television. And frankly, if you've got a Sony TV, it's going to be a lot more difficult to find what you're looking for with their built-in guide. I have a Sony TV. I'm not sure if I checked, and I don't think my TV is impacted by that. But the guide is not that good anyway. Well, I have to tell you, it's pretty slow. It populates with data pretty slow. It's pretty slow to scroll. So it's not that brilliant anyway, and it's going to be even worse if Sony goes ahead with this. Apparently when Sony goes ahead with this. So if you've got a Sony TV hooked up to an antenna, you want to maybe check that. And I would be not shy at all in voicing your displeasure with Sony for downgrading your experience with your television, if that's the case for you. So there was actually this highlighted for me. There's been a lot of buzz. We're in the run up here to NAB, which is next week. And there's been a lot of buzz about over-the-air television in the news. And I just wanted to share a couple of things that have been percolating around, Will, that I thought were kind of interesting. Firstly, in preparation for NAB, the industry really, as we've talked about before on the podcast, the industry is really trying to grow momentum behind the switch to next-gen TV, which is ATSC 3.0. And I don't know if you remember, but when we did the analog turn-off, there were these cheap set-top boxes floating around so that people that didn't want to upgrade their TV or couldn't upgrade their TV could get a very cheap box that would get them to ATSC 1.0. Well, the industry's doing that. There are going to be a bunch of small, cheap, quote, below $60, if you consider that to be cheap, boxes on show at NAB that will be coming, and they, as I say, they promise that they'll be below $60 or less, and that they'll have programs that will probably allow them to be even cheaper, just like they did with ATSC 1.0. Now, ATSC 1.0 and ATSC 3.0 are not compatible, which is why you need this box, but apparently this box will also support ATSC 1.0. So the industry continues to try and pressure the FCC giving a hard cutoff date to ATSC 1.0, a hard switchover. So that is certainly true because they also, the broadcasters are pressuring the FCC. Apparently ABC, CBS and all of the major broadcasters are pushing for a hard shutoff of ATSC 1.0, or a hard switchover rather, to next-gen TV. As I say, they're asking the FCC to make that hard cutoff under Brendan Carr. And apparently they're throwing everything at it. They're also saying that the FCC should do something about the switch of premium sports to streaming. They're saying that premium sports are a key part of local broadcasts, and that supports that revenue helps support local news, which is also very important to everybody who's watching regular broadcasts. So they're sort of throwing everything in here to try and get this switch to next-gen TV. I find this argument about local sports particularly ironic, Will, though, because they're also asking for the FCC to raise the caps to allow more consolidation of broadcasters in various regions. And what typically happens when they consolidate is they fire a bunch of local news broadcasters or local news employees and consolidate those newsrooms as well. So you get less diversification of news by allowing these ownership caps to increase. So it's a messy old world, but basically the old world is really trying to get the FCC to support next-gen TV and to help them retain their place in the TV ecosystem with local TV stations by keeping some premium sports on over-the-air television, Will. So I'm sorry, this was a bit of a messy situation with over the air, but I guess that's where we are with over the air against streaming.
Yeah, I mean, the part that intrigues me is that the market, it seems, has really spoken on the future of sports, and the future of sports is really on streaming, and that's because streaming providers have the deepest pockets to fund sports, and it seems like that train left the station a long time ago. So some type of a mandate that OTA users would have to buy a $60 box or, thereabouts. I think that seems like a tough ask. We'll see if that gets any traction, but I think it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. And as I've said before, I think the benefits of next-gen TV are a lot less clear for consumers than they are, I think, for the broadcasters. Basically, next-gen TV allows broadcasters to enter new business models. So, for example, it's very efficient to deliver large code updates. So if there's a new iOS version, for example, that needs to go out, you can deliver it much more efficiently over a broadcast fabric like ATSC 3.0 next-gen TV. And so that would allow them to sort of participate in that. The other benefits that consumers have, like interactivity and 4K, well, they kind of have that already through the streaming services. Most streaming services now are available in 4K. There is an upcharge with some of them, which is a bit annoying, but others not so much, right? And my streaming experience, certainly with my Premier League across Paramount Plus and Peacock, it's great. I mean, I've got a lot of interactive features there, things like catch up with the top plays when I'm joining a live stream, and 4K deliveries. Some of the games are delivered in 4K and look fantastic. So, this is much less clear a benefit to consumers than it was going from analog to ATSC1. And I really don't think it justifies the mandate that we should switch off and force people to have to buy these boxes, which they have to stick under their TV to continue to watch. So, I don't know. I don't know what will happen, but I think it looks like the industry is going to continue to increase the pressure on the FCC to create a hard cutoff date.
And we'll see coming out of NAB next week if there's any progress made. Colin, we want to just touch base on one last quick topic this week, and that is we both took note of the letter signed by 1,000 Hollywood creatives protesting the takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery by Paramount. That letter included the signatures on that letter included from J.J. Abrams, David Fincher, Jason Bateman, Noah Wiley. The list goes on, and their primary concern is that this acquisition is going to reduce the number of opportunities for the creative industry. And no surprise, the response from Paramount was, no, actually, we think the opposite is going to happen, and that bringing these two companies together is going to create more opportunities. So we have a split between the creative community in Hollywood and Warner Brothers Discovery / Paramount, Skydance. So I don't think, from my vantage point, that anything is really going to come out of this. There are still some hearings yet to be had on the merger. But in this administration, this regulatory environment, I think it's unlikely that the creators are going to have much sway here.
Yeah, and I thought that when I saw this news, I thought that they would have gotten lots of support from the theatre owners as well. But even there, things are split. AMC's CEO, Adam Aron, he came out and said that he thought that the Paramount Warner Brothers merger was fine, saying that the commitment from Paramount Skydance to increase the number of theatrical releases to 30 from 20 was good for the industry. But it turns out that Cinema United CEO Michael O'Leary was saying the opposite. He said, "We believe this transaction will be harmful to exhibition consumers and the entire entertainment ecosystem." So there's even no unanimity inside of the theatre industry about this. And there was even one more story about Netflix courting the theatre industry this week, right?
Yeah, Ted Sarandos was speaking at an industry trade show, and I guess the speaking date was scheduled while Netflix was still pursuing WBD, but he held on to the date. And we know that obviously there's been fraught relationship between Netflix and theater owners for going back since the beginning of time. But Netflix has been making some overtures, some light overtures recently, and this was the most recent one.
It was, and I should note, Adam Aron, the AMC entertainment CEO, he's come out in favor of the Paramount Skydance deal. He was also in favor of the Netflix deal when Netflix thought it had won the right to buy Warner Brothers Discovery's digital assets and theater assets. So, maybe we should take what Adam Aron says with a pinch of salt.
Probably right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, Colin. Anything else you wanted to add this week?
Oh, I think that's more than enough.
Okay, we'll leave it at that then. So thanks, everybody, for listening in on this week's edition of Inside the Stream, and we'll see you all again next week.
Inside the Stream is a production of In-Screen Media and Video News, all rights reserved.